If you want to disappear, get fat, and no one will notice you. That's just how it is. Greatest personal growth comes from having to lead, manage, organize people, make profits, etc.
But value's created from helping other people. Like, that's what makes a business valuable. That's what makes you valuable to other people. If you're trying to go get somebody like a mentor or build a relationship with a high level guy, right? There's basically only 3 ways to do it. Either pay, build up media attention, which is way harder than paying, or you've just got this. What up, wealth builders? Today, I've got an entrepreneur who has launched over 600 franchises in the fitness space. This dude is all over social media. He's got a top ranked podcast, and I'm just honored to have him on the show. I've got my guy, Bedros Keuilian. What's up, man?
Thanks for the opportunity, Ryan. Appreciate it, man. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got to connect, and I've heard a lot of great things about you from guys like Flex Lewis and, just a bunch of other entrepreneurs.
Flex is a good dude, really good dude, a fellow immigrant.
Where are you from?
Armenia.
Armenia.
I'm a former communist. So my dad was a member of the Communist Party.
Wow.
When I was 6 years old in 1980, he's like, we're going to escape. Yeah, so we escaped the Soviet Union, went into Italy for 10 days, went to the American consulate. And my dad's like, hey, we're political refugees. Like, if we go back, like, he's dead. And so they let us come into the United States, and the rest was history.
Wow.
We went directly to the armpit of Orange County, Santa Ana.
Okay.
Yeah. So Orange County has very beautiful areas, right?
Yeah.
There's also an armpit called Santa Ana. There's other armpits of Orange County, but Santa Ana at the time, even now, gang infested. And so low income. And that's where we were living in Section 8 housing, which is government assisted housing. You get food stamps, you get, the card that says you can get lunch for free at school. Which really singles you out because they had 2 sets of lines in elementary school, like the broke kids that had the lunch cards that get free lunch, and then the kids who were going to pay for their own food. So if you're on the lunch card line, you get laughed at, picked on, beat up, whatever. And so the first few years were like a tough upbringing. Didn't speak the language, didn't understand the culture, didn't have any friends, but that led to also building a lot of resilience, resourcefulness, and the ability to make friends quickly so that they don't beat you up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's always been a blessing for me.
So how did your progression into, getting entrepreneurship go?
Dude, I was a fat kid. Like when you're Armenian, here's what your mom does. She cooks, they figure out how to fry bread. They figure out how to take like rice and fry that, like just fried everything. And so growing up Armenian, you're eating a lot of foods that are prone to make you fat.
Okay.
And then you're also not encouraged to be in sports because shit, man, we're broke. We're living off in Section 8 housing. My dad's got multiple jobs. My older brother's got multiple jobs. My older sister's got multiple jobs. My job is just to not get in trouble because I was the baby of the family. And so I grew up just eating a lot of, fried shit. And then as I got older, junior high, high school, just eating a lot of cereal, never working out. And then it was the summer before senior year. I was like, dude, the prom is coming up and I got to go to the prom. And there was a smoking hot Latina chick named Nakaya. And so you know how high schools are, like everything's cliques. So the jocks had their own clique. The goth kids had their own clique. The band geeks had their own clique. And then the pariahs like me, who just didn't fit in with any of them, just kind of cruised around the campus during lunchtime. I had no group to belong to. But in science class, one of the football players was my science partner. And his name is Dave. And I'm like, dude, you're jacked. Like everyone seems to like you. And we were friends in science class. But outside of science class, like I was invisible to him because he couldn't be seen with me, right? It's not part of his sports clique. So I'm like, dude, how did you get in shape? Like, how do you stay in shape? And this was end of 11th grade. He's like, dude, I work out and I eat right. I'm like, I don't know how to do either. So he takes me to the school gym. Intimidating. You're hearing these guys like clanging and banging weights and everyone's trying to hit a PR and bench and squat and deadlift. I'm like, bro, I don't belong here. He's like, no, just let's come and do a bench press. It was just a bar and I could barely get the bar up. And long story short, he got me into training, into working out right, into eating. So I spent that entire summer before senior year working out at a local gym like a madman, eating right, changed my diet completely. And when you're young, you got all that testosterone coursing through your body. I lost 35 pounds over summer, come back senior year, jacked, lean, more confident. All of a sudden, I'm visible to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm no longer invisible. And this is what a big lesson I learned. Even today in 2024, if you want to disappear in the Western cultures, like just want to disappear in plain sight, get fat. Even though there's all this body positivity movement, even though there's all this like fat acceptance, it's really not. Get fat and no one will notice you. That's just how it is. And so in my case, I come back jacked and lean and, you know, more confident. And I'm like, I like this. Never had enough confidence to ask Nakaya to the prom, so never made it to the prom. But dude, that changed my trajectory. So I was after senior year, we graduated. I'm like, I think I want to be a personal trainer. You know, I read in the back of a muscle magazine, like Muscle and Fitness magazine, become a personal trainer, make $100 an hour.
You're like, that's a lot of money.
Bro, I did the math. If I trained 7 clients a day, that's $700 a day. I'm rich.
Yep.
Right? At that point, I'm in my, 18, turning 19. So I get certified as a personal trainer and realize I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to market. No one wants to just pay me $100 an hour.
Yep.
So I had 3 clients. I was charging $19 an hour, driving to their homes, working as a bouncer at a gay bar, and then working at Disneyland as a fry cook. Ain't that funny to make
that's a wider range of jobs.
Like, it did not say that in the back of that magazine, right?
No.
It said become a personal trainer, make $100 an hour. I believed it, bro. And so anyway, long story short, one of my clients, and I did have one client in the gym, LA Fitness. His name was Jim Franco, older dude, 65, and charismatic, just magnanimous energy. And he would come in and everyone just turned their heads. Not like he was a good looking guy. He just had that energy, right?
Yeah.
The way he carried himself.
Someone you want to be around.
Yeah. And I was like, Jim, like, how is it that you come here to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2:30 in the afternoon? Don't you have a job? He's like, I do, but I run the place. And so I could leave whenever I want. I was like, all right, got it. And then I'm watching like what car he's pulling up with. One day it's a Cadillac Escalade. Next day it's like this classic BMW. Next day it's a sports car. I'm like, how many cars do you have? He goes, several. I was like, wow, that blew my mind, right? I'm like driving a 79 Toyota pickup and he's showing up with different cars. And so this guy was just opening my eyes to so much entrepreneurship. He goes, why are you always tired? I go, well, dude, I'm a bouncer on Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights at a bar. I work at Disneyland in the evenings, and here like in the mornings to afternoon, I'm a personal trainer. Most of my clients, I go to their homes. With you, I come here to LA Fitness. I was paying rent to LA Fitness.
Yep.
And which was a part of the deal. So like the rent was they would get a percentage of the fee that I was charging the clients. So he started like mentoring me, man. And he's like, you got to learn to sell. And he was very harsh with me. He always called me kid, which I guess made sense. At the time, I'm like early 20s. He's in his 60s.
Yeah.
He's like, kid, the reason you don't have clients is you don't know how to sell. You don't know how to prospect. You don't know how to get leads. And I was so pig-headed, Ryan. I was like, bro, I sold you 6 months of personal training 3 times a week. He goes, no, you didn't. He goes, you're an order taker. He goes, I came in here looking for 3 times a week.
Yeah.
You showed me the packages.
I tell my sales guys that all the time. I'm like, bro, you're taking orders. Those are the people you're getting.
Yeah. Lay downs don't count.
Yeah. They don't count.
Yeah. Lay downs don't count. Like that's just a gift from God because, like he felt pity on you. Right. So anyways, long story short, like that hurt when he said that. I was like, shoot, he might have a point. He goes, I see you let people walk all the time. He goes, let me guess. They tell you they need to think about it. They need to talk to their spouse. They need to look at their finances. I'm like, how the did you know? He goes, those are objections. I'm like, I'd never even heard the word objection. So the next day he shows up with a Brian Tracy book, Tom Hopkins book, and a Zig Ziglar book, all on sales. And my mind was blown. This guy mentored me. And so I was at least smart enough to go, hey, Jim, if I can add a 4th day a week of personal training on me, you don't have to pay for it. After that, can you hang out for 30 minutes and just coach me? I think I want to open up my own personal training studio one day.
Yeah.
And so he saw something in me. And after that 6 months went by, he loaned me $50,000 at 8% interest and took 50% equity in the business in my first personal training gym called Premier Results. This is before Fit Body Boot Camp, our franchise. And the rest was history, man. Like he mentored me and I grew. This is no social media, nothing. I'm talking lead boxes in restaurants. Like check off, do you want to lose weight, gain muscle, right? And then I would go collect lead boxes and call every lead.
What year was this?
2001, 2002.
Got it.
Yeah. So, internet hasn't popped off yet. Google's not running ads. You're not running Facebook ads. You're not doing any of that stuff. Like you're belly to belly, toes to toes, nose to nose with people. And so I come from that school of like actually meet people. Like, proximity is powerful. Don't just hide behind a laptop and computer. Like, get on the phone. Today's version of that would be to get on the phone. But anyways, man, because of what he taught me, I was able to open up 4 more gyms, ended up selling those. Those were all in San Diego County. I had moved out there, and started coaching and consulting personal trainers, because they're like, dude, you opened up 5 gyms and built them and sold them. By this point, it's 2006. And I'm coaching and consulting gym owners who want, personal trainers who want to open up gyms and be successful, charging like $5,000 for a year of coaching, right? I was just telling them exactly what I was doing. That ultimately led to the housing market crash in 2008. And now no one's can afford one-on-one personal training at that point. It costs $600 to $1,200 a month for a client to do one-on-one personal training. So all of my gym owner clients are starting to drop off. I'm thinking, man, if this continues, me, my wife, and kids are going to be living in my mom's house, right? That wasn't about to happen. But I did see these outdoor boot camps taking place in parks, beaches. And I was like, I bet if we take this outdoor boot camp, bring it indoor, systematize it. Again, lazy man thinking.
Yeah.
Right? How can I make it weatherproof? I don't want to be out in the cold. I don't think clients will want to be out in the cold. If I can bring it indoors, add functional equipment, very minimal equipment, battle ropes, kettlebell, sleds, things like that. I think I can make a whole system out of this thing. And Fit Body Bootcamp was born. In 2011, I launched the first location. 2012, we franchised, and the rest was hockey stick, with obviously its own share of bumps and bruises, leadership problems, growth issues, etc. Yeah.
So you've had this now for over a decade.
Yeah.
And you guys are over 600 locations now. Yep. And so tell me about like this franchise model, since you don't really need a physical location, right?
You do.
Oh, you do need a physical location.
Yeah, we took the outdoor boot camp, brought it indoors into a physical location.
Okay, got it.
Which now you can scale across the country no matter the weather.
Right. Okay. So these guys do need just basically a warehouse space, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, warehouse space.
How much square footage do they need?
3,000 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you teach them how to run all the classes, the ads, the marketing.
Everything. Yeah. Our guarantee is you'll open the doors with 100 paying clients, or we'll keep marketing for you until you have those 100 clients. We have yet to have to market for free for any of our franchise owners.
Wow.
We've got such a dialed in process.
Yeah. How much easier is it now that you have a brand, like personally and with the business?
Huge, night and day. It's easier on both sides. It's easier on the side of, so imagine this. I don't know if you've ever kind of delved into what it takes to become a franchisor.
Yeah,
right?
I've looked into it. Yep.
Yeah. So it's not just, all right, Ryan's ready to write us a $55,000 check and give us 9% of his top line revenue for royalties, because we have to give you an FA, franchise agreement, FDD, franchise disclosure document. In the back of the FDD, it shows all of our closed locations. After 2020, when
we had a lot,
218 locations shut down in 10-month period.
Yep.
Like, that's a kick to the nuts, right? And so you have to justify to a new franchisee who's in the prospect space why you have some, it was a black swan year. Yeah, it was the pandemic. Yeah, whatever. But the sales process for a franchise is typically about 4.5 to 5 months. When they come in through my funnel, as in they know me, they listened to my podcast, read my book, saw me on platforms like this or on a stage or wherever, it's a very different story. Within 60 days, the deal is closed. So we time collapse just by being attached to a personal brand. We time collapse because the know, like, and trust factors are there. They listen to my shit. They follow my shit. They want to get on board with my shit. And most of them who come on board have the same type A, high speed, tightly wound mindset that I do. Like, that's just how I operate. And so again, I have to be type A, tightly wound, high speed, because if I want to be lazy, I have to be able to like have control over everything. I'm a control freak in that way. And so with that in mind, we get the best franchisees. And then of course, clients, I have millions of listeners worldwide. And so when you have a lot of people who are watching and listening to my show, realizing that, wait, Bedros is the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp and there's one in my town, I'm going to go work out there. So our owners get
the benefit
as well. It becomes a win-win for all.
Yeah. How do you feel when people say like, oh, well, a business can't have value when there's a personal brand attached to it and all this stuff? What do you think?
It's an absolute lie. And I'll tell you this. My friend Nick Long, he is a partner in Meritage Partners. They're investment bankers. And we're in the process right now of shopping Fit Body Bootcamp and finding the potential private equity to buy Fit Body Bootcamp. the number one question was, so you're the personal brand attached to this? Yep. How involved are you at the HQ level? Exactly 0 involved. I've got a CEO, Bryce, he runs everything. Okay, so like it was a non-issue. Every private equity that we've talked to has been like, how involved are you? It's cool that you're the personal brand driving traffic. And I'm one of like 8 sources of traffic, both on the franchise side and on the franchisee side. But anyone that says that there's no value when there's a brand attached is an absolute lie. It's not like Elon Musk can't sell Tesla because he's so attached to it. He helped grow it. He could sell it. And Tesla, I'm sure, has other poles in the water in terms of marketing collateral. So same thing here. So anyone that says that just doesn't understand business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always tell people too, it's like Elon's a great example, obviously, and as entrepreneurs become, famous people, which they are now.
Yep.
It used to not be that way, right? But it's like Elon's a rock star, Jeff Bezos, like people just know.
Yeah.
And especially like all of the businesses coming up, they all understand like, yo, you need social media. You need it's just going to be like the norm.
Yeah.
And,
exactly.
And even like Nike has been doing that forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Phil Knight. I mean, people know who Phil Knight is, but they understood the power of having a personal brand attached. And so they just happened to outsource it.
Right. That's all they did is they put athletes as a personal brand. But once Phil Knight wrote Shoe Dog,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, Nike did become an even bigger brand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's proof that you could even outsource, which what we do, right? Influencers kind of act as the face of a brand at times to the people who follow them.
Yeah.
When you think about what an influencer is, they're a brand who believes in a product and therefore the people who believe in them end up buying the product.
Right.
It's that on a micro scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, when I hear that, I'm like, well, everybody nobody wants to buy a product from like a faceless, like there
Right.
has to be people involved to buy a product.
Always. Like in this day and age, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with Fit Body Bootcamp, what were some of the struggles that you guys have had? I know you mentioned leadership. I've talked to many different franchisors and man, it just seems like quality control is a major issue for the brand.
Yeah.
With getting franchisees who have no business experience and they just make the brand look bad because they're just not upholding standards.
Yeah. So the two things that really rang true in terms of things that created bottlenecks, pain points, frustrations. One was poor leadership on my part. Poor leadership on my part because once Jim Franco taught me how to sell and market, I considered myself a good marketer. Then I started subscribing to Dan Kennedy, Frank Kern. Like I said, I think we're talking offline about Brandon Bouchard and Dean Graziosi and Joe Polish. And I was in Joe Polish's Genius Network Mastermind where I met Wyatt Woodsmall and Dan Sullivan and all these guys. So I became a great direct response marketer, which
Mm-hmm.
doesn't take much. You and a couple of assistants and you're selling courses online, right? Coaching online. I was selling coaching services and even courses to gym owners. But when you create a brand, like a legitimate business, brick and mortars that you could sell, because you can't sell your coaching business.
Yeah.
It's literally personality dependent.
Yep.
So when I created Fit Body Bootcamp and I realized like, man, I'm going to need compliance officers. I'm going to need a sales team. I'm going to need operations. I'm going to need a second in command. There's a lot of things that a marketer doesn't have. And that is the ability to be able to cast a clear vision. Because it was like, all right, if this month I want to make $500,000, here's a copy I'm going to write. Here's a mailing list I'm going to send to, or the email list I'm going to send traffic to. Here's the offer I'm going to make. And then here's how we're going to close these people. Like coaching or courses was very formulaic for me. But building out a franchise that had so many moving parts meant that I've got to cast a 3 and 5 year vision. Dude, I was used to casting like 90-day visions, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
which car do I want to buy next? Oh, how much money do I need to make?
Yeah.
Where are me and my wife going to do to the house? Oh, we're going to add a second floor. Okay, got it. Here's how much money I need. It was literally transactional.
Yeah.
Direct response marketing. That's what it is. And, I love direct response marketers, like guys from like Gary Halbert and Sugarman and all that. But until we turned pro, we're just hustling for money. And when you know how to make an amazing offer, you know how to convert people's, perception into a need. Like, oh, I don't think I need that. Yes, you do. And here's an offer, money back guarantee, risk reversal. And oh, by the way, there's 5 free bonuses and boom, you got the deal. With the franchise, it's very different. So I had to cast a vision. I have to figure out what that 3 and 5 year vision was. I had to make projections. I had to actually give specific marching orders to team members. And when you come from a communist family that your dad tells you you're supposed to be seen and not heard, and his way of disciplining me was the backhand. He called the 5 brothers, right? So he just whacked me across the face if I was talking too much. You soon learn to not talk too much. You soon learn to not lead, not cast a vision. Like factory installed skills that I had were marketing and sales. Like I believe I had that within me. Jim Franco, my personal training client, brought it out in me. I did not have leadership skills. And so I had to acquire that. Because of the poor leadership that I had, I was passive aggressive with my team members as it grew from 9 to 14 to 40, now 70 people, right? Just on the franchise brand side. And you're thinking about running departments and people, and there's politics and all that. And you're just like, dude, I miss the days of being a marketer, which is why 4 years ago, I brought in my CEO, and I just want to lead high level people. So I lead all my VPs and CEOs. They lead the employees, the team members who, and there's a difference between leadership and management. I love leading now. I've learned how to lead, and I can lead high performing people. I I choose not to manage rank and file people. Right. They irritate me, frustrate me, piss me off. And I'm a bull in a china closet with them. But all my type A leaders, they know exactly how I am. Yeah. And so they get the marching orders. I can cast a clear vision now. I can communicate well to them.
You can text them at 5 a.m.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. And they get the job done. There's no open loops with employees, employee-minded people. And you can sugarcoat it by calling them team members, which is why I call them in my book. And I do have plenty of team members because a team is unified. They know what winning looks like and they play to win. Employees clock in a little late, clock out a little early, and do the bare minimum to maintain employment. And so my team members are driven. But when you have a big enough company, inadvertently, you do have some employee-minded people in there who are just kind of like crop dusters and not fighter jets. I get very irritated and frustrated working with them, yet they may fill a somewhat of a role. And so I have others manage them. I just want to lead, not manage. So that's one thing, poor leadership. There was 2 instances in the growth of Fit Body Bootcamp that it imploded on itself. One in 2015 and once again at 2018. Again, as a byproduct of poor leadership on my part and also growing pains. The other one is exactly what you mentioned, which is how do you get quality franchisees on board, right? Again, being a marketer and a direct response marketer, my whole thing was, hey, you want to buy a course from me? I don't care who you are.
Anyone can buy it.
Black, white, Chinese, gay, straight, doesn't matter to me. Buy my course, right? So I sold my franchise that way. And I didn't qualify people. Do we in the beginning, right? Do we have the same core values? Is our vision aligned? And so I was selling a franchise where they're signing a 7-year franchise agreement to people who are like, yeah, bro. And they're like, my wife always said, she said, if they wear affliction t-shirts, do not sell them anything. For some reason, I attracted the affliction t-shirt wearing dudes, right? Back then in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. And so while that's a running joke in the family, it does hold true because they were like the bros who were like, yeah, man, I like Bedros and what he's about. So I'm going to buy his franchise. And then they're having sex with the client in the broom closet. Or they're like shooting up steroids or they put squat racks in the fit. There's no need for a squat rack in a Fit Body Bootcamp. Like that's not our market, right? Yeah. And so once I brought in an operations manager, like we created a whole qualification process. Like they have to literally, we put Fit Body Bootcamp behind a velvet rope, and then they have to qualify to be awarded a location. Right. And since then, like every franchisee is aligned in our values and how we run the system, and we haven't had problems.
Right. Yeah. When you, as a guy who's like built a big franchise and gone through those struggles for a decade, how much does it make you appreciate like these franchises that are just so dialed in, whether it's a McDonald's or I know Chick-fil-A is not necessarily a franchise, but just when they scale to that level and have the same quality worldwide. Yeah.
To me, it's like art, right? Like if someone was an art connoisseur and they can go to some New York art gallery and, you know, see the brush strokes and see how like under the right lighting, the sunset looks like it's actually taking place right in front of you. And I know nothing about art other than like just what I said there. A well-run franchise like Blaze Pizza, like McDonald's, Jersey Mike's currently, bro, I have so much respect because you're taking humans and you're saying, I'm going to transfer my knowledge and the systems that I've created into your body and your brain, but you come with your own set of emotions and feelings and thoughts and trauma, right? Yep. So I don't know what your operating system is. in terms of how you operate, but I'm going to give you the operating system for my business, for my baby. And then you're going to clone one of my babies and run it in your town with your fucked up operating system potentially. Because I come from a
your
fucked
past
up
trauma.
Yeah, bro. I was molested as a kid, right?
Jeez.
I was beat up as an immigrant when I came here. Like, I know trauma. So it's not like I'm like pointing fingers and saying they're peasants and I'm not. Like, I come from trauma, and it's why Fit Body Bootcamp had a very rough start in the beginning. Like, I was a poor communicator. I didn't trust anyone. I felt like I didn't deserve success and wealth and money and all that. So it would grow and then self-sabotage. Well, someone can interview well as a franchisee, but if they got these internal limiting beliefs and they hit some kind of glass ceiling, once they hit like whatever, $300,000, $400,000 a year with their franchise location, and they start to implode, we got to be there. The operations team has to be there to support them, to prop them back up. And so when I see a well-run franchise system, dude, I respect it so much because I know the work it takes behind the scenes. Like, it's a heavy lift.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't have a franchise, but I've been close to partnering with different people and different things.
Yeah.
And so I've gone down the path of, just everything and how difficult it is. And going down that path alone made me just like look at every franchise in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll walk into Chick-fil-A and I'm just like, this is insane. Just like looking at it, I'm like, it looks the exact same as everyone across the world. Everyone's just as friendly. The food is the exact same quality. Yeah, I'm like, this is insane that they're able to replicate this everywhere, like in a physical location, right? Because you talked about direct response. And it's funny because I got into direct response after. So I was flipping houses. I was in real estate since 2010. And so I was used to having operational complexity. I'd have 50 to 70 flips actively going at once. So, we're managing construction, we're managing raising capital, we're managing closings and purchases and, cash flow. Like, we have to run, I hate to say it, but like a real business, right?
Yeah.
And then,
but that's true. That is the difference. You're either a marketer and you're hustling for cash, or you're running a real business. And that is big boy rules.
Yeah. With true complexity and big stakes, right?
Yep.
You have $20 million of, high interest loans out there. You better make sure how to get those deals through. Right. So that's how I grew up. And then, I get into the social media game during COVID, and I start learning direct response literally like 2 or 3 years ago. And I was like, what the heck is going on? This is so easy. Like, these schmucks are just printing money.
So you came the other way from a real business to marketing and direct response.
Yeah, that. And, I had built a real estate brokerage with 200 agents. We built a tax firm, which is another like very complex business of hiring accountants and dealing with just tax returns. I mean, like true tough stuff.
Yep.
So I did the opposite, and I'm grateful I did, because it allowed me to, now I'm in this social media game and this education game. And obviously we still do a ton of real estate, but like it honed me into, what I am now, where I just kind of look at problems way different. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. So Ed and I, we spent about 2 hours yesterday with this guy named Henry Akins. Do you know anything about jiu-jitsu?
Not a ton.
So anyway, we enjoy jiu-jitsu, and Henry Akins was given his black belt by Rickson Gracie, one of the Gracie brothers. You heard jiu-jitsu and Gracie kind of go hand in hand. And so the guy who trains me in Southern California in jiu-jitsu, he's like, hey man, you might want to meet with him. Because I get a lot of private lessons, I'm always training with black belts. And because I'm pretty well connected, anywhere I travel, there's black belts who are at the highest level who will roll with me and teach me the nuances, right? Mm-hmm. That is the equivalent of running a real business. Mm-hmm. When I go and roll with blue belts, purple belts, 4-stripe white belts, and I'm fairly new to jiu-jitsu, I see how much easier it is for me because I'm always rolling with black belts.
Yeah.
People way above my rank. Mm-hmm. And so when I have to step down to people at my level in terms of skill set, most of the time I'm able to dominate them. And it's the same thing that you just described. And I think if more people came from running a real business, which is humbling, which takes a lot of effort, which takes a big team, mm-hmm. and then you go to social media, direct response, etc. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is like, I got tailwinds in my favor. I can make the right post or make the right offer and the deals come through. So for me, it was the opposite. I was doing the lazy man marketing, direct response, social media, mail. Like literally I had addresses of 15,000 personal trainers and gym owners. So I would send them a three-page, Dean Graciosi gave me a 3-page letter. He says, send this out to everyone that's bought a course from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they respond, get them on the phone and use this script to sell them a $15,000 mastermind. Bro, I made my first $2 million in a year using that strategy. A direct mail piece, like 4 pieces of paper sent through the mail, right? And I was like, this is easy. So I'm like, hey, Dean, do you think I could maybe send out an email to my 30,000 people list? He's like, oh my God, you have a 30,000 person email list. I go, yeah. Sent the same email out, made another 4 million, right? Like it was that easy. Get them on the phone. And then obviously you have to then offer, follow through with the year of coaching and servicing, right? But yeah, it's a very different world. Direct response marketing and then real big boy business.
Yeah, it was funny, man, because I only got into social media because COVID hit and I was just like, what is everyone going to do? And I just started watching YouTube and I never like cared about it. I didn't watch YouTube and stuff. I didn't care what anyone else was doing.
Right.
And I started just watching these guys and they're starting to talk about how much they're making as influencers and content creators. I'm like, what the heck? This guy has a camera in his house and he's just making 100% margin with no risk. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And he's talking about real estate and he don't know anything. I'm like, this is insane.
Right. You were probably offended at that point, right? You're like, what the
I was offended for like 5 minutes. And then I was like, why would anyone listen to this person? And that's what most people would do. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I mean, if this guy could do it, it can't be that hard. And so, I went in the social media scene first and it wasn't even about direct response. I still didn't even understand that word. I just was like, I'll make good content.
Yeah.
So I focused on content and that in turn just generated leads.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, crap, I don't even know how to manage these. And I've never built a sales team for this.
Right.
And so, we just kind of winged it. And then all of a sudden it turned into this 8-figure business. And I was like, all right, so, now people were like, dude, you're really good at direct response. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we didn't even run ads. It was all organic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now I've kind of like embraced direct response. And I've said that, this year I'm going to really hone in on being the best, like, a digital marketer I can be. Mm-hmm. And so, I took all of our marketing in-house from all these agencies and stuff. And I'm like, dude, look, if these guys are the best, I just know I'm more talented. I've just had more experience doing way more difficult things.
Yeah.
I played pro baseball for 8 years. Like this stuff is running a Facebook ad. Like, why is it so difficult? I don't understand why the cost per lead is this. Why can't we try 10 other creatives? Well, I don't know. I'm like, dude, I'll wing it. Give me the camera. I'm going to go film 10 right now and let's see what happens. And then of course, the cost per lead's in half now. It wasn't that hard. It took 15 minutes of just willing to go try something new.
Right.
And it's funny. So I think this year is going to be really big because, we got a foundation in place and I'm actually embracing being a marketer for the first time.
Good for you, man. I think that's a huge thing. And like personalities like you that have the actual tribal experience, like you've got tribal knowledge. You've been doing real estate long enough that it's not like, he learned it off some YouTube videos and now he's sharing it on Instagram. Because the right people can tell.
Yeah.
Right. Like you've got tribal knowledge. You've got like the innate skill sets and the content that you share is 10 out of 10. And it's a no-brainer that seemingly people will go like, bro, you came out of nowhere and you're killing it. But it's because you had all these years of experience. Like, again, I wasn't on Instagram until 2016. I wasn't really trying to make myself socially out there other than on YouTube because that's where we're getting a lot of leads from. I was doing YouTube since 2009.
Wow.
Right? Because
what made you like be that early on it?
I knew that I had the gift of gab. I knew that I can connect and I can just bypass the brain and go right to your heart. And if I can go to your heart and connect with you, then, upstairs when I was getting a tour, someone had Robert Cialdini's book up there, Influence.
Yeah.
I knew that if I can connect with the brain, I won't have as much influence as I will if I connect with the heart. And at live events, like I used to run live events that are called discovery days, like when you're trying to start a franchise or a coaching business. You get a whole bunch of gym owners together in a learning center like you have there, and you go, hey, for a day, I'm going to teach you guys for free, right? It's a discovery day. And I give them all the whats, but not the hows, right? Because I don't have that much time. It's just a day. So these are all the things. This is what you need to do to grow your gym business. If we had, another 6 months together, I can tell you how to do all this stuff. I can help you set it in place, and my team and I can help you. But since we don't have our days up, we don't have more time. And then in the process, I knew how to make them think, make them laugh, make them cry. And if you can make them think, make them laugh, make them cry, genuinely, not just by being a shitbag, you've connected with the heart. And when you have connection with the heart, you have absolute influence, and you've built a know, like, and trust factor within 5.5, 6 hours. And so then I would make an offer during those discovery days. And I found that it worked so well for me. I was like, if I could scale this and do it on YouTube, I could reach more coaching clients. And ultimately, as we launched Fit Body Bootcamp, I could reach more new franchisees, right? I just knew that I could look down the barrel of a camera and speak from radiance because I truly have a high give a shit factor for like fitness businesses and people that come from. And most fitness business owners, like they are empathetic, they're compassionate like me, they have a high give a shit factor, and they probably were fat and out of shape and invisible to humanity, and fitness changed their life, and so they want to pay it forward. Like that's my MO, that's who I am at my core. And so I just speak to them from radiance, and I found that YouTube was like the mighty nuclear bomb of force multiplier. Like, why have all these like meetups in person when I can do it via YouTube and just have them all call in to my call center? And so, that's why I went with YouTube. And then as I was writing the book, Man Up, which was just man up to your higher level of leadership, I was like, all right, Instagram's popping off. And again, being a lazy entrepreneur, I'm like, do I build a following here and then try and sell them books? No. Who has my future customers? Well, Andy Frisella does, Ed Milet does, Lewis Howes, Sean Stevenson, Vaynerchuk, all these, listed off 16 names on my marker board. And I got 15 of the 16, built a relationship with them for the 2 years between 2016 and 2018, built a relationship with those guys, a genuine relationship. I listened to their content anyway. And Lewis, I already knew Lewis because I had helped him out with his business previously. So he's the only guy out of the list of 16 names that I knew. The rest, I spent 2 years adding value, building relationships, making connections, sending them stuff in the mail, steak, whatever. And then, like, dude, what can we do for you? Well, I got this book coming out September 18, 2018. It would mean a lot if you would promote it. Andy not only promoted it, but he also gave me a blurb to put on the book. And, like on Instagram, I was a nobody in that time, a nobody. And overnight, it was an overnight success because I asked myself that one question: who has my future customers? And how can I truly build a meaningful, valuable relationship with them to get them to promote me and my book in the future?
Well, and I think too, what you did was smart. It was 2 years before the ask, right?
Yes.
Like some people are like, dude, all right, I'm going to launch my thing. I need to get on these podcasts. I got to meet this guy and blah, blah.
That's selfish.
Yeah. I'm like, bro, like earn it.
Yeah. Yeah, no one wants to earn it anymore. And that's like, we're in this place of like immediate gratification. And so I got to get on Ryan's podcast. Well, when was the last time you said hi to Ryan? What is the last time you stopped by and drop something off? When was the last time you made a connection for him to make his life better? When was the last time you left a comment or a DM or shared his shit so he can see that you actually are filling up the Goodwill bank account before you try and fill up your own personal bank account? Like I've got zero love for the bottom feeders like that. Like, hey, Bedros, I'd love to be on your podcast. First of all, if you actually listen to my shit, it's a solo show. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a solo show. So you want to be on my podcast, you bitch. You haven't even done the research, right? And I'll just put them on blast. But anyway, that's how I roll.
That is so funny, dude. I think it's funny because obviously I relate to it because I deal with it.
Because they're trying to suck off your teats.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about this then. This is a funny thing. So one thing that I was literally just telling our sales team upstairs, I was just doing a little training to start the day. Because now that I'm a direct response guy, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go actually train the sales team how to do this right. But I was talking about the idea of leverage, right? And so you never want to give up leverage when you're in sales. You always want to maintain your leverage. And, once you give it up, you're toast. And so essentially, I've tried to create a business where I have all the leverage. I don't want to rely on anyone. I got my own media. I don't need to get on other people's crap. I throw my own events. They're sick. I don't need to speak on stage for anyone else. I don't need to, like, I'll build a recruiting funnel, so I'm not relying on any one employee or manager. If they don't like it, it's all good. Line up. There's other people coming through. Like, I just could understand a bottleneck or a weakness, and I'm like, I don't want to be exposed in any way. And I just don't want to be like that person you're mentioning, where it's like, oh, dude, come on, man, give me a handout, give me this, give me that. Like, you know, people are like, dude, you should start doing affiliates and do other people's stuff. I'm like, no, I'll just do my own stuff. Why do I need to do affiliates? You know, the last thing I hate is all these people who rely on affiliates, and they're just like constantly trying to get people to affiliate their crap. And I'm like, bro, why don't you just build your own thing so you don't have to rely on no one else?
Yep. And I think that's a great mindset. And that's what I subscribe to. I'm not a big believer in affiliates. Because if you're running an affiliate campaign, you got to run it right. You're going to do anything, you got to run it right. And if you're running an affiliate campaign, you're having an affiliate contest, you're having to talk to people you don't like. The 16 names, I could have had 160 names, but the 16 names that I wrote on that marker board were people that I would genuinely want to be friends with. Right?
With or without them promoting the book.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, it was going to be great.
It was a win-win no matter what.
Yep.
Right? I already was leaving comments on their shit. I was already sharing their podcast with the Fit Body Bootcamp franchisees, right? Yep. And those franchises were sharing it with their 300 clients. So they were like, holy, you're that guy who runs that business? Yes, that's me. Like, holy shit. Okay, thanks. Like, literally in one DM, Andy Frisella's like, bro, what can I do for you? I was like, nothing yet. I've got a book coming out in a year and a half. He's like, well, a year and a half, fly out to St. Louis now and get on my show. And then we'll do it again when your book comes out. And it's because, like, once he connected the dots, that I was the guy that was sharing his content with all this franchise clients, right? But it's genuinely giving a shit. So why create a list of 160 people that I want to be affiliates, but I don't connect with, jive with, wouldn't necessarily want to hang out with? Not for any other reason other than it's just there's not a personality match. And I'm very transparent in how I roll, and you could see that if I don't like someone, I'm going to wear it on my face. Yeah. But I'm like, these 16 names I would hang out with. Yeah. And so, man, I'm going to see if I can just build a relationship with them, and it worked.
So let's talk about relationship building, because it's important. I always say this: there are 3 ways to basically, if you're trying to go get somebody like a mentor or build a relationship with a high level guy, right? Okay, there's basically only 3 ways to do it, right? Number 1, you're going to pay them, right? That's the easiest and quickest, if they're even open to it, right? Number 2, you're either going to trade skill for skill. So you have a skill or something that they really need and want, right? So, like, I've been fortunate that since I was good at real estate, a lot of people reached out and said, hey, dude, like, I'm thinking about getting into real estate, whatever, right? And so I've met a lot of great people from that skill set. The third one is just, you have a platform, you have media, you have attention. And it's like, I get so many people now because of the podcast, because we'll throw 1,000+ person event every quarter called WealthCon. Like, they want to speak on stage. They want to do it for free. Like, I have a platform that I've created that gives them value, you know? So in the end, I've been able to build a lot of relationships by doing all 3 of those things. You know, you had mentioned Ed, and, you know, I finally got to, you know, obviously I knew who Ed was, but I finally got to really get to know him maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And the way I got endorsed, dude, I paid him 6 figures. I said, yo, I want you to speak at my event. This is actually, he was the first guy ever paid directly to speak at one of my events. Because I was like, you know, I want to get to know him because he's done a lot of great things. And so, you know, we filmed a podcast at his house on the beach, and he spoke at the event. And by the end of that, he was like, bro, whatever you need, hit me up. And I wasn't expecting that. I was just like, I'm going to just be me. I'm going to do a great job. I want to just be excellent and show him what we're doing, that, you know, whatever. Right. And if he wants to do something, great. If he doesn't, it's all good.
Yeah. You make such a good point here, Ryan. And let me clarify for your viewers and listeners right now something that they're already thinking. Like, the secondary conversation in the heads of probably most of your viewers and listeners are like, well, that's up of Ed to charge 6 figures for you to speak. And then all of a sudden he's willing to, you know, do the podcast with you. And then he says, hey, bro, like, you basically paid him to be your friend. You got to hear me out on this, friends, because you know this. How many people are sliding to your DMs by the hour trying to extract something from you, extract some value? The way I know someone's legit is if they pay to play. Yep. Simple as that. And sometimes if you want to time collapse a relationship, you don't have 2 years like I did to genuinely build a relationship. You're like, shit, WealthCon is coming up. It's next quarter. I need this guy to speak. All right. Well, the way Ed is going to give you the shit test to see if you're full of shit or not
Yep.
is you put your money on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a baller, what's 100 grand, 150 grand, 200,000 anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a relationship equity there that's going to surpass
Way more.
that
Way
six
more.
figures.
Easily.
Right? So it is a pay to play, and it's a great way of weeding out the shit bags and really talking to the winners who are willing to put their money on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So, even for a guy like Ed or whoever else, it's like, then that changed my mindset too, because up to that point, I was utilizing the other two. Hey, I got a big brand that I'm building. So, people are naturally going to come. The events getting more and more exposure. So, people want to come. But I was like, all right, I'm going to tap into the third one now that I haven't needed to this point. And, I did that with Tim Tebow at the next one. And I was like, dude, I'm going to implement this every single event with somebody I do not yet know that I want to get to know. And the cool thing is, we can figure out a way to actually like get the ROI immediately, right? So like with Ed, him and I did a dinner. I was like, hey, if you can do it, let's do a dinner. I'll have 10 people attend. I'm going to charge them 10 grand a pop and let's roll. And then, so bam, now it's free.
Yeah.
And then those 10 people, by the way, loved it.
Yeah,
they
got
were
value.
like, bro, this was the best experience ever.
Yeah.
We got backstage access to all the speakers. We got this dinner with you, Ed, and some other speakers. Like, it was crazy. They're like, that was the best value for 10. Everybody was super stoked.
Bro, just the last 5 minutes here was a masterclass for anyone that wants to network and connect.
Yeah.
Like pay to play.
Those 10K people paid to play too.
Mhm.
And
They
now
did.
a couple of those people, I'm like, hey, dude, let's do stuff. Here's my
Right.
number. Let's roll.
Exactly. Because
Yep.
again, you gave them the shit test.
Yep.
Put your money where your mouth is and will you show up?
Mhm.
Because the people that are willing to do that are also going to show up differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
So I always tell people that. I'm like, look, either pay or build a media attention, which is way harder than paying,
Yep.
or you've just got this skill that can add value. So if you're listening to Bedros and he keeps talking about how he's looking for somebody who does this thing, hit him up and don't charge him. Be like, yo, I do this thing. I want to help you. I keep hearing you talk because now it shows you're bought in. I listen to your show. I know what you've been saying you need. I can do this. And don't charge him. Just do it.
Yep. That's exactly right. It is a simple model, but I think sometimes people take something that's simple. You're like, nah, it can't be that easy. I need to make it more complex and put it all up because it can't be that easy. It's literally that easy.
Yeah, it is that easy.
Yeah.
And man, it's crazy too, because it's just like a compound effect of the more people you know, the more they introduce you to this guy and that guy. And then it even becomes like a credibility thing. Cause I'm sure when you were only knowing Lewis, it was hard to get in the doors of the others.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, once you knew half of them, then it was like significantly easier.
The dominoes just fall.
Mhm.
Exactly. And that's the other thing. Once you get to know people, like exceed the expectations.
Yes.
Like show up differently, show up early. If they're going to ask you to speak, don't be like, well, here's my speaking fee. Just shut the fuck up and speak.
Yeah.
Right. When you're in the green room, don't be a needy little bitch. Just like sit in the sweaty green room and do your thing. Right.
Yep.
Like pay your dues.
Yeah.
And, when I was coming up, even now, anytime I speak on someone's stage, when, anyone that asks me to speak on their stage, first thing I'll do is I'll build up the host. I'll say, what is it that you're selling at the event?
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about like, hey, Ryan's going to be, if Ryan offers this thing about real estate and you're here because of real estate, you're going to want to purchase that, because why would you go about it and try to do it yourself? It's going to take you 3 to 5 years longer, all this effort, all these mistakes you're going to make when he's going to give you the blueprint. Like, I'm going to talk up the host. I'm going to make you larger than life because I want you to go and speak good about me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best things that Ed Milet has ever said, he's like, dude, one, you're a prolific speaker for someone who you weren't born speaking the language. The way you can string words and sentences and paragraphs together and paint a word picture is prolific, which was a great compliment coming from Milet. And number two, he was like, dude, I've yet to meet any single person that has a negative interaction with you, because I always make sure I leave people far better than I found them, because I just want to exceed expectations, which is why through social media, if I'm like, I don't like that person, I don't like how they carry themselves, I don't like they're incongruent or they're just too whatever, I think there's something weird and shady about them, I won't associate in the first place. Even though my greed glands are like, no, man, you probably can make a couple million if you guys associate, they promote your shit, No, because odds are he might end up talking shit about me because I've heard him talk shit about someone else. Like, I'll just keep my distance. And I think to me, like the reputation equity far exceeds the financial equety.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, it's playing the long game at the end of the day, right? And I'll tell you this, as somebody who throws events, I've had lots of people in. And I've had divas. I've had, just super cool people. Oh, bro, 25 minutes? I need 50 minutes. I need an hour. I'm like, okay, never mind. And then, you know, just all these other dramas behind the scenes of just like all these things. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm never going to work with that person again.
Right.
Like, they just blew it. Like, it's just, for me, once again, I don't even like to speak at a lot of events unless they're friends. I'm like, all right, bro, let's go. I'm never going to ask for like a flight reimbursement. I'm never going to ask for anything. I'm not going to ask you how many, I'm not going to tell you how long I need to speak. You could put me on a panel. I don't give a crap. It might be 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Like, if you're my boy, I'll be like, whatever. All right. I'll show up. I'll help you promote it. I'll be there. Whatever you need me to do, just tell me what to do. Yeah. Right.
Here's a true story that will back that up. Dan Fleischman, our mutual friend.
Yep.
Right. This was mid 2018. Ed and I were in Miami. Cardone had asked me to come and do his show Power Players. I'm flying back from Miami. Hugo, my driver, is going to pick me up from LAX, and we're going to head home. I land and I see a text from Fleischman, and he's like, dude, Hollywood Palladium tonight. I need you to come speak. I was like, Ed, we're going to have to pivot. Hugo, take us to the Palladium. We land, and I'm like, bro, I'm probably going to show up at this time. Can you squeeze me in at that time? I'm doing the best I can. I show up. He's like, man, all you have is 14 minutes. Like some odd number. I swear to God, 14 minutes. Ed can tell you. And in the green room is Priscilla, Mylette, Tom Billiou, Lewis House, me, Sean Whalen. And I'm like, what up, fellas? And they're like, what time do you speak? I'm like, it's some weird time, like 5:06, and I have 14 minutes, right? But I just brought the thunder in those 14 minutes and made sure that Fleischman was edified in those 14 minutes, added value to the people that were there. And then today, Fleischman and I own a ranch. We own other businesses together. We're about to buy the ranch across the street. That's another 110 acres.
Oh, so do you own that one that he lives in right now?
Yeah. Black Site Ranch is half mine. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I keep a lot of my real estate shit on the down low.
That's tight.
And so, but I share that with you because Dan and I were in the relationship building phase. Yeah. Now I could have been like, bro, I'm tired. We just flew in, and you should have talked to my assistant first. And shut the up. Just go there and speak and add value.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when you do and you edify someone, as you said, there's a long play here that's happening.
Well, I think what it comes down to is, especially as you said, you start getting into rooms and then people have these dick measuring contests and they're just like, whatever. Like I walk in and I'm just like, so I just don't really care. I'm like, do whatever. It doesn't bother me. I'll do whatever you guys want. I just don't care. And, but you know, like, you know, some people are divas and it's just like, oh, well, freaking why I need to close out the event. Like I'm the keynote. No, I'm not speaking at this slot in front of him or after that. I'm like, oh my gosh. All right. Never mind.
Here's a true story for you. So every year I put on an event called it was called Fitness Business Summit. And then it transformed once I kind of started doing working with all types of entrepreneurs. It was the Empire Business Summit, and 12 to 1,500 people in the audience. And there's a big name out there, blue check mark. Everybody knows him and follows him. I'm not going to drop his name.
Everyone has a blue check mark.
Yeah, that's true. Today for $14 a month, so it doesn't matter. But previous to that,
previously it was really hard to get.
Yeah, the guy, I'll just say he's a good human.
Yeah,
he was just probably showing up as an asshole that day. But I'd asked him to speak, and he's like, "Dude, more than happy to. You've spoken at my event. More than happy to speak." He was somewhere in Northern California, Santa Barbara. He's like, oh man, traffic. I was like, no worries. What do you want? A helicopter? We'll send you a helicopter. I swear to God, Ed can tell you, Joan, his wife, my assistant for 10 years now, sends a helicopter to pick him up. He lands in Orange County, John Wayne. Hugo, my driver, brings him over to the event. He's a bit hungover. He yells at another one of my assistants, Jesse, I need a fucking steak and I need a steak now, right? Like he wouldn't get on stage without a steak, bro. Like, you want to talk about divas? I was just like, mental note. Never ask him to speak anywhere ever again.
No.
Like, what the a gremlin showed up, bro. Like, this guy is such a good human.
Yeah.
But that day, a gremlin showed up, and I don't know if he was just on edge because he's going to speak or what. And he speaks everywhere. But I was like, this ain't happening again. Like, I'm all for the helicopter. But you treat one of my team members like they're scum. Like, bro, take it easy. You know. Interestingly enough, he did take the stage and brought Thunder. I will give him credit.
He did perform. Nobody knew what happened.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. When we have these events, people don't know, but I'm just behind the scenes like, oh my gosh.
Bro, a reality show could be built. Based off putting on one big event. And everything that takes place.
Easily. If people only knew the drama of it, it's so funny. But the reason I publicly say it is because I always want to make sure that even now, like I'm saying it, so I'm held accountable so that, it can be used against me. Like right now, like, hey, Ryan, you said you're not that guy.
Right.
And now you're being that guy.
You're asking for blue M&Ms.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, no, dude, like whatever you want me to do, I'll do. I don't care. Once again, though, it just goes back to this pride and ego thing of, just the comparison game. And I think that so many people, and you somewhat alluded to this, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs are so fueled by past trauma that it's like they never lost the chip on their shoulder.
Right.
And so no matter how much success they achieve, they still feel slighted. Oh, this guy freaking said this about me and whatever, right? They just can't ever get over it.
They build stories in their head. Sometimes I believe that they'll build stories in their head to just kind of fuel the trauma, to feel how they feel, because that's the thing that they know. It's familiar, right? So I'm going to get aggressive. I'm going to let my ego take over. It's like, dude, when someone just said, hey, how's it going? Or gave you a nod, it wasn't meant in anything other than how's it going. I just assume like if you're rushed and you're coming by and you just give me a nod and go by, I'm like, what the Ryan didn't say hi. What the I thought we're homies. Bro, there's probably a million things that's happening. Maybe the wife has an issue. Maybe the kids have an issue. Maybe there's like $1 million decision that's got to be made. And you're like, B is my homie. I'm sure he's fine if I just zip by and I can talk. In the meantime, I'm telling myself stories because of the traumas that I have that I've never healed from.
Right.
And so I'm telling myself all these stories about what an asshole Ryan is and he's looking down at me. And when in reality, you just try to put out a fire, then you're going to come back and be like, what's up, homie? Everything good?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the problem with grown ass men who make a lot of money but haven't healed from trauma.
Exactly, dude. And I would say that's like a majority.
Yeah.
Like,
which is why we also get into what we're doing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's what fuels.
We want attention. Yeah.
I think it fuels the growth. It's just one of those underlying things.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me of a story of Gary Vee. So, I've spoken at events and I would say maybe 3 times he's spoken at the same event. And the first 2 times, I never really got a chance to see him. Right. Yeah. Obviously, like I'd love to meet him and introduce myself, whatever, because we've never talked, but he's always just like in a rush, in and out. And, every time he's like, like you just explained, like in a hurry.
Yep.
I'm not going to go and be like, dude, Gary, great to meet you. And just, bro, this is what I do.
Right.
I'm a big deal. I'm speaking with you too. No. So every time I just am like, whatever. And so we were in Utah at this Limitless event and he spoke. And then he lost his backpack down backstage or something. He thought someone stole it or something. It was weird. But what ended up happening was Keaton, the host, actually moved it so that it was secure. So, he's like frantically moving. He's got a flight to catch and all this stuff. And then people are like stopping him, like trying to do this thing, right? Like, dude, Gary, let's get a pic.
Yeah,
I'm
big
like,
fan.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you guys are idiots. And so, but it goes back to the scarcity thing of they're like, this is the only opportunity I'll ever get. Right. And in my mind, I'm like, bro, I'm gonna cross paths with this guy in the next decade at some point. Like, I'm not worried about it today. So anyways, he's doing that. And then, he finally finds he's getting ready to leave. And I'm just sitting, like, I'm just sitting there. And then he walks by me and he looks at me and he goes, I see you. And I was like, oh, tight. So, like what you just said, we had never met. And he's like, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool. So anyways, I happened to be speaking at another event a couple of months later. And then an opportunity presents itself. And then him and I literally had like 20, 30 minutes one-on-one because of just the way the event was structured, that we had that opportunity. And then we got to know each other. Yeah. And it's just like people are so either scarcity mindset or they're just not thinking long term, where it's like, bro, you think that's going to be your first impression with somebody that you really want to meet while he's frantically doing something,
trying to find a backpack because he's got to bounce.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, Gary, let me just take a minute of your time.
Yeah.
But let me tell you where that comes from. At 49 years old, I've had a lot of therapy. Number one, shout out to Kevin Downing, my therapist, who's a gangster. He looks like Einstein, all white hair that's sticking up. And then like it was like the 3rd session in, I'm like, something's up with this motherfucker. I was like, Kevin, you got no eyebrows. So imagine like a dude with all white hair, no eyebrows, looks like an alien, and you hit it. Like, you got no eyebrows, and he just starts belly laughing. But anyway, 49 years, lots of therapy, and just lots of experience too. I always tell people, like, the best experience is start businesses that will become literally financially profitable, hire people, learn to deal with different personalities, because the greatest personal growth comes from having to lead, manage, organize people, make profits, etc. And then when you can work with a therapist. I believe a therapist can ask all the right questions. But I think where that comes from is, I call it the man on the white horse syndrome. Like, people who lack confidence, who haven't really stacked wins in their life and have only stacked losses. And those losses always start off small. In my book, I talk about, you wake up, your alarm goes off. Instead of waking up, you hit the snooze button. You just stacked an L, right? You're taking 10 more minutes of interrupted sleep instead of waking up and dominating your path in life. Like, your subconscious mind is like, this mother would rather get 10 more minutes of sleep than go dominate his path. And you go, I'm going to work out. But now you're 15 minutes late. And so you're not going to work out. You stacked another L. It's all those little L's that people have stacked over time. And so when they see a Gary Vaynerchuk, or they see someone, they think, this is my moment. The man on the white horse. There he is, Ryan. If Ryan promotes me, I'll be successful. Because they haven't stacked enough W's to have enough confidence to go, I'm the man on the white horse that's going to gallop in and save my own day.
Yep.
I'm going to build my social media following. I'm going to build my voice. I'm going to stack W's, and then I'm going to share my wins. And then people are going to be like, dude, here's money. Tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
Instead, they always start trying to bet on another man who's like, they see as the man on the white horse.
Which goes back to what I was saying about affiliate marketing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
just trying to get other people to do something for you.
Exactly right.
So yeah, that's, see, I've never been a fan of that, but I've also believed in myself. Like, I'm like, bro, I've stacked a lot of W's in my life, and it didn't even have to be financially.
Your baseball career helped a lot with your financial career, like
Easily.
as an entrepreneur, because you stack W's there. You know what winning looks like, and winners always win.
Yeah, 100%. So, you mentioned a lot of different entrepreneurs and things, and it's interesting because, like, there was a lot of guys that you mentioned that started doing this like a decade ago, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like the first wave of these entrepreneurs on social media, like, let's just say the first famous entrepreneurs. And now you have this new wave of entrepreneurs coming through. And let's just say I'm part of that, and Hormozy and some of these other guys that are coming to the scene now in, let's just say, their 30s and all this. How has that been, just, I guess, watching that evolution? Because for me, I'm grateful because I get to talk to you guys and Cardone and Ed and these guys. And I'm like, dude, I'm like accelerating, just learning from all the things you guys had to do. And like, also too, all the tools weren't available to you guys back then that I have today. And I'm like, it's crazy that we can do this.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's beautiful to watch because, again, I get to learn by watching you. You're in your 30s?
Yeah,
right?
34,
49. And so when I was in my early 30s, guys like Wyatt Woodsmall and Dan Sullivan, like, I was the baby in that group, and Joe Polish's group 15, 16 years ago, right? Dean Graciosi's older than me. Brandon Bouchard's older than me. And so I was just like, holy shit. And then I remember telling Dean Graciosi at that meeting, I was like, dude, I'm running Facebook ads right now and paying 9 cents a lead. He's like, yeah. This is when you can run your own Facebook ads. Like, if you actually go back and
9 cents a lead.
Yeah, and I was running my own ads because it was just like one thing that you have to do, like run an ad.
Run.
Yeah. And so he was like, what? Because remember, he was selling books on infomercials, right? How to buy homes with no money down. And then he was doing direct response. So he was like, here's a three letter sequence that works best for me. Mail it out, just change everything that says real estate into personal training success. And then that's going to get you coaching clients. I'm like, well, hey, here's what's working for me. Facebook ads, because, well, I could just hide behind the computer and puck a couple buttons.
Pretty cheap.
Yeah. And then drive people to a page on my ptpower.com, which was my personal trainer power.com blog. And then from there, they're going to see it, basically it's a great blog post, but it's veiled sales copy, which then leads them to the sale. And he's like, holy, that's brilliant. That's amazing. And so I gave like a 10-minute tutorial to Brandon Bouchard, Dean Graciosi, Wyatt Woodsmall, Joe Polish, right? And I'm like, and I'm talking about like a Toshiba laptop this thick with a little, and no MacBooks at that time. And I realized, like, I'm the baby teaching these guys. And so, like, man, I'm watching. Every single one is watching. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then if I can extract one thing and apply it to my business that's got so many poles in the water and so much audience, that's a multiple of another 7-8 figures.
Yeah,
that
it's
ends
a
up
huge
coming.
multiplier.
Yeah. And a decade goes by quick, and you'll be there at 44 years old.
Yeah,
and you'll be watching the dudes and dudettes doing that, and you're like, man, here's another force multiplier for me. And
I'm
so
glad they figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go use that.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you guys are learning what worked for us, but we're watching and learning what's working for you and going, hey, let's just multiply that.
So it just never stops. It's just this constant.
It's a self-fulfilling cycle. My wife says it best, man, because sometimes I run this thing called the project. And the project runs 3 times a year. It's 75 hours straight. My lead instructor is a Navy SEAL. The other lead instructor is an angry sociopathic Marine. And it's taking men and putting them through the 75 hours straight of just like physical, mental, emotional beatdown, and then helping them get over their trauma, build a bond, a network of entrepreneurs, etc. And then if they ring the bell anytime during the 75 hours, they quit, they can leave. If they didn't ring the bell, they're part of this brotherhood. We've run it for 5 years now, 18 classes. I share this with you because sometimes I'm like, fuck, babe, what's it all for? You know, like, I feel like we're running the project. We have a project YouTube show. We have like this whole thing. Yet men are still up, addicted to vices, you know, infidelity, pornography, drugs, alcohol, vapes, whatever. And she told me this parable that I'd heard before, but I'd forgotten. And she goes, every single one of us fulfill a role. So, you know, Tony Robbins is a legend. You said Tony Robbins is going to be sitting, you know, coming here next. Like, the guy's legend. I remember buying a bootleg Tony Robbins audio CD off of
a bootleg one,
off of eBay, right? Somebody was burning them and selling them. And it's funny. Once I got some money, I was like, man, I got to make this right. I went and bought the real thing. So I was like, I don't want the karmic debt, right? And then years later, I spoke on stage with Tony at Joe Polish's event, Full Circle. And I was like, all right, if he asks, like, you ever bought my shit? I can honestly say yes, right? But anyways, I share that with you because every single one of us fulfill a role, including Tony Robbins. And I pray and wish for Tony Robbins to live 1,000,000 years. But one day when he's gone, someone else is going to have to step in his role. Someone else is going to have to step into my role, into your role. And someone else is going to have to step in the roles of all the hurt men or all the broke people. Like, it's just how it is. And the parable she told me was, and you may have heard this before, and I'm going to slaughter it, but my wife is like very prophetic. Old man's walking down the beach. And I could picture that because I surf. So I'm like, oh, cool, beach. And the beach, the sand, right where the waves break, a whole bunch of jellyfish just flopping around. And this old man's like scooping up handfuls of jellyfish and shooting them into the water, flinging them into the water. Another dude's running across the beach, and he stops and he looks at the old man frantically scooping up all these jellyfish, inevitably missing a whole bunch. And these ones are dying. And he stops the old man. He's like, old man, what are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to save these jellyfish, don't you see? He goes, it's futile. Like, you can't save them all. Like, look at all the ones that are dying. He goes, yeah, but those ones I was able to save. And so I'm able to save some men. Not all men. As much as my heart wants to save all men, I can't. And when I'm gone, and when I start sulking about what's it all for, why am I doing this? Because I didn't tell you, the project in the 4.5 years we've run it, it's never been profitable. I lose anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 per class. And like I told you, we've run 18 classes. Class 5, we had a dude die in the project. And if you've never had a wrongful death lawsuit on you, Ryan, I don't wish that on anyone. Right? Now, he didn't die because of the project. Turns out the coroner's report said he had an enlarged heart. Nevertheless, the family, this is America, you can sue anybody. But because I'm so passionate about what I do with the project, and because I make a lot of money with my other businesses, I do that at a loss. Because if we charge what we're supposed to charge for the project, like, we would only get like multimillionaires on board. So anyway, I share this with you because when I start griping about what's it all for, why am I doing the project, I remember that old man. Like, there's some jellyfish that are somewhere out there floating around, very thankful that old man took the time to flip those fish in there. And one day when that old man's gone, another old man will be there to start flinging jellyfish into the ocean. And there's going to be another dude running across asking him, why are you doing this? And that's just how we roll. Now,
I've heard that parable, but it was a young boy and starfish.
There you go.
So we actually, they use that parable. We've built houses in Mexico and a organization called Homes for Hope. And so they always play a video talking about that story because, you know, they're like, how many families can we actually build these homes for in Mexico? We can't get them all. He's like, well, that one did. That one did. That one did. So
no, and on an individual basis, man, that's so powerful. Oh,
100%. So no, I think it's great. And I think, you know, just if people start realizing that it's just not only about them, right? I mean, it's hard because most people are in survival mode. And so thinking about other people is very difficult.
Yeah.
But, value's created from helping other people. Like that's what makes a business valuable. That's what makes you valuable to other people. It's like, what can you create that improves people's lives?
Yep.
And so
Exactly.
with everything that you've got at this point, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time now with social media, the franchise, like, is there a certain end goal in mind? Do you want to sell the franchise? Do you want to, like, what's the goal?
Yeah. All my businesses are being built to sell. And anyone listening to this, if you're not building a business to sell, you're out of your mind. You can't assume that your kids, your heirs are going to take over, right? I remember Andrew and Chloe. Now Chloe's 16 and Andrew's 18. When they were little puppies, they're like, Dad, we love what you do, but we never want to run the franchise. I was like, oh, tell me why. Well, we hear you complaining about the Federal Trade Commission because all franchises are overseen by the Federal Trade Commission.
Yep.
Right. And they're like, we don't want that. That doesn't sound fun. We like the creative part, the YouTube show. We like the coaching thing. You talk about how fun it is to coach your clients. And I don't want to paint a bad picture about franchising. Franchising is beautiful. It's art. And if there's nothing that will build your entrepreneurial muscles bigger and better than a franchise system that is where you're trying to get, like you said earlier, get all these people who you don't really know if they're cut from the same cloth as you to run an identical system worldwide. That's an orchestra. That's pretty impressive. All while being managed by the Federal Trade Commission, right? All while having to document every single location in your Article 19, in your FDD, every single location that has been shut down, closed, or failed to launch, right? Like that is big boy rules. But so all my businesses are being built to sell. So that's just how it is. And every business I take equity in, like Fuel Hunt, same thing. But people go, so what's your end goal? My end goal is to actually raise two amazing kids who will do a lot more benefit to this world than I ever did, because self-actualization didn't take place for me until my early 30s in terms of actually understanding what personal growth is, self-actualization, mastery of self, going from human animal to human being. Human animal is very emotional, very ego-driven, very greedy, very selfish. Human being is connected to consciousness, to source, to our creator, and can always have outside eyes on himself or herself. And so the fact that I've been able to, with my wife, raise kids since little puppies who are going to have the advantage of servitude to humanity, like that's my greatest goal. The businesses, I just got a great zone of genius and had some great mentors who showed me the way. My greatest contribution to humanity will be Andrew and Chloe and the legacy that they'll build.
How old are they?
16 for Chloe, 18 for Andrew.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what do they want to do?
They both want to be entrepreneurs. They both want to run their own lives. They don't want a boss telling them what to do. Yeah. I did tell them that when you guys turn 16, you're each going to get a job in two different industries. One in the food service industry, because I want them to deal with hungry, angry people, right? And number two, in the sales industry. I want you to go out and sell cars, sell solar, sell roofing, sell something.
How are you raising them in regards to money?
That part's a little tricky.
I always ask these because I have 3 kids now, under 5.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
So I'm like preparing. I'm like, dude, how do I get these kids to be hungry, to understand struggle and everything that built us to what we are?
Yeah. So understand that I come from being broke and poor.
Yeah.
Broke is when you don't have money. Poor is a mindset. And I had both. I was broke and poor growing up. And so when my wife made this suggestion during the kid's first birthday, like, hey, whatever gifts Andrew's going to get, because Andrew's the older one, let's just pick one for him. At the time, he was a baby, obviously. We'll pick one for him that he gravitates towards, and we'll give the rest away. As he gets older, for Christmas, for birthdays, whatever gifts he gets, they get to keep one and give the rest away. So charities. So my family and I, we've adopted 3 charities for the last 12 years. Compassion International. We've got 97 kids adopted through Compassion International, which,
we have a few with them too.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Then, there's like pencils, clothing, food, water, etc. for third world country kids. And Andrew and Chloe were always writing letters to them. And so they kind of got to read stories of
these kids growing up. Yeah,
and then we'd go to Panama and Costa Rica and visit and actually see that life as well. We'd make a trip out of it, but we'd also go to the parts of the world where those kids were and go like, hey, here's the other side of the world that you can see. Number one. Number two, till this day, they give stuff away, keep one thing and give everything else away. And then the other thing is that in the Shriners Children's Hospital, we've donated now over $7 million to Shriners Children's Hospital, which do medical surgeries for kids whose families can't afford those bills. And then every Christmas we buy $250,000 worth of toys from Target. We shut it down for the morning, the one in Chino Hills, and we fill up like 8 Marine trucks, and they take them to this giant annex because the Marines run the Toys for Tots campaign. And they give away these toys to kids who would not have a Christmas gift to open. Wow. And my kids have always been active in that. And so they get to see that. Yes, they also get to see, we have Hugo, a driver. We have Marlon, who's our house manager, who does their laundry, color coordinates their shirts. I'm like, hey, you guys like having Marlon here? Yeah. Well, pick your underwear up then. Like, it's not her job to pick it up. It might be her job to wash it, iron it, put it back in your drawer, but pick your shit up, right? Yeah. Like, I'm a foreigner. I know what being a foreigner is like. And as a foreigner, I didn't want to pick up shit. Marlon doesn't want to pick up shit. So be good to her. And so they learned that. And if you want a Marlon, you're not going to work a 9 to 5. If you want a Marlon in the house full time, then you're going to have to make the kind of money where you can pay her $30, $35 an hour, whatever it is that we pay her, and benefits to do the thing. And so we expose them to everything, to the numbers, to the business, ever since they were puppies. And so they just know they have to work those 2 jobs. One, because I wanted them to deal with hungry, angry people. And then to hate trading their time for dollars. And then 2, learn to sell, because if all else fails, if you can sell, you can print money. You know that. But they're going to both be entrepreneurs, and they're both well on their way. Andrew does all my crypto trading for me. And
nice.
Yeah, he gets 15% of all the winnings, and he does a great job of it. And Chloe will do something where she's a big personality. I don't know what it is, but she'll be an entrepreneur, manage her own money.
She's going to be a YouTuber.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I'm just really blessed that that's my big life goal, is to raise 2 kids who are going to be an absolute asset to humanity. Yeah.
No, I love that. Yeah. My last WealthCon, I ended and did probably my best presentation, I think. And it was on leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I ever teared up on stage. I don't get emotional. I'm very even keeled, but I was just talking about the sacrifices that my dad made for me. He was an immigrant from the Philippines, and just like, he never saw his dad. He had 12 brothers and sisters, and he told me, he's like, that's not going to be what you do. I'm going to be here at every baseball game, everything you want to do. And like, that influenced me in the way I live and run my business now, where it's like, I'm going to be here for my kids. Yeah. I don't need the money. I just actually have to get better at business. If I get better at delegating, automating, I can have both. Yep. Right. And so that's the whole premise of the Wealthy Way, is just like, guys, you can have it all. You can be healthy. You can have faith. You can have great relationships. You can make a crap ton of money, but you got to get more skilled. You got to get your priorities. You got to get better time management. You got to quit messing around with dumb crap. And, in this presentation, I just talked about legacy and how important it was. I was like, guys, I'm Christian. If you read the Bible, so much of the Bible is genealogy and legacy, and talking about families and fathers and sins of fathers and generational curses. And I'm like, so many of you guys in this audience right now have lived from the curses of your fathers. Alcoholism is rampant in your family. Infidelity, divorce. You have a choice today. You're either going to break the chain, or it will continue, because you're going to just stay in that same mindset that's been perpetuating through your family history. And, it's interesting because, there's this idea on social media of like, get yours and, whatever, grind and all this crap. And I'm like, I'm all for working hard, but, it should not come at the expense of these other things. Right.
Tim Grover had made a really good statement about the word grind. He goes, hey, I've trained a lot of athletes, they definitely know how to grind when it's grind time. He goes, but they also know how to relax and spend time with their family, etc. Yeah. He was actually speaking at our Fit Body Bootcamp World Conference. And he goes, let me ask you guys something. He goes, what happens if you take a piece of rock and you just start grinding it and grinding it and grinding it? And everyone's like, it turns to powder. Exactly. Like, you just turn to dust. Like, grinding is not necessarily the way. I might have phases of life or phases of seasons when I'm grinding. But if someone thinks they're going to grind their way to success, like, stupid. Like, you're going to miss out. Like, your wife's going to divorce you, or your husband's going to divorce you. Yep. Your kids are not going to know you. They're going to call someone else mommy and daddy. Yeah. And then you're going to carry so much shame and guilt that, like, whatever wealth you create can't even be enjoyed.
No. And you're probably going to give up half of it in the divorce. Yep. So like,
exactly.
100%. I didn't know he ever said that. I love his books of winning, but I actually just confirmed with him yesterday that he's going to be speaking at the next WealthCon.
Nice. He's a good dude.
So for anybody who wants to go, April 18th to the 20th, here in Vegas, Caesar's Palace, baby. But well, dude, I appreciate you coming out, man. It's been great finally getting to sit down with you. And now that I like know you a lot better, I love just meeting people cut from kind of the same cloth and mindset.
Appreciate it.
And it's just good to see, man. I'm excited for whatever else comes from all this.
I agree, man. I appreciate the opportunity. And again, I don't just say this, like, you articulate well, you walk the walk, talk the talk, and I think people see it, and that's why you are who you are.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Well, guys, we'll link to everything Bedros got going on. I mean, maybe you might even open a Fit Body boot camp for all you fitness guys. You never know, but you better be qualified because you ain't getting in if you suck. So make sure you go check it all out, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
The old school entrepreneurs sacrifice everything, including your relationship. I believe that's just one option.
What I would say is it's actually less talented option, less innovative.
Yes.
They're less creative.
Yes.
They don't realize that I could probably do both. I just have to do it differently.
Got